This is Swoopy, and you're listening to Whimsicality, laying in the grass making daisy chains for under 10 minutes a week. Yesterday, while waiting to make the turn onto my street, turning left, of course, waiting and waiting for traffic to break, sitting in the turn lane like a salmon against the headwaters as cars rushed by. And then, nothing. My precious Jetta stalled out and refused to go home. I turned the key as the engine continued to churn, but not turn over. And my panic mounted. Not that I was stuck in the middle of a busy street, but that my car was obviously sick. What could it be? Was it serious? Maybe just a new battery. This had happened before, a few years ago on a very cold, snowy Maine evening. You see, that's where my car and I met. Having sojourned to Maine with only a moving truck and adopting the life of a frugal New Englander, I scanned the local used car section of Uncle Henry's. That little magazine was great. Every week, I looked forward to seeing what great stuff I could get on the cheap, or even free. A king-size mattress and 3 sets of new sheets for $100? Sold. So one day, scanning used cars, there it was. Volkswagen Jetta, black, low mileage, excellent price. I called. I went and drove it. It was meant to be. I knew from the first time I slipped into its soft, plushy gray interior that we were meant to be together. The guy who was selling it was headed off to college. He had a Jeep, a much more macho college guy vehicle. He didn't love the Jetta. Not like I did. And so I went in to look at the title, talk about terms, and the guy had ferrets. I knew it. It was a sign. I had ferrets. His ferrets were happy, roaming the apartment, surrounded by toys. He was good to his ferrets. I was good to my ferrets. We bonded over our love of mustelids, and I knew, without taking it to a mechanic for a professional opinion, I knew in my gut that this car was for me. There was no logic there. My rational side says, you have no idea what could be wrong with this car. It could have been in a wreck. It could be a lemon. It would be very simple and the most reasonable thing to do before you give this guy a wad of cash in your trust to take the thing to a mechanic and find out. The smart thing to do. But I just really didn't want to. I felt it was the right thing to do to buy this car. I needed it. I wanted a Volkswagen for sure, and I really wanted a black one. I had made a pledge of loyalty to a brand I liked and trusted, and had yet to let me down. Again, an emotional decision. I just like Volkswagens, mostly older model, similar to the way I feel about my Macintosh. Sure, my G5 is nice. Actually, it's better than nice, but I don't hug it, the way I've been known to wrap my arms around my iMac. It's a G3, and has been retired as a server, with a host of daisy-chained USB hard drives stacked up beside it. And yet it's there, every day, smiling at me. And even though I know it's not practical to keep it in service, I will, because I love it and its little personality. Why do we impose human attributes into inanimate objects? There's no rationale for it. Animism is the belief that plants and other inanimate objects have souls. Derived from the Latin animus, meaning soul, it is an ancient belief that likely stemmed from the need for a way to determine what is alive and what isn't. Some cultures do not make a distinction between animate and inanimate objects, and I'm not sure that ours isn't one of them. Anthropomorphism, also referred to as personification, is the attribution of human characteristics to inanimate objects, animals, forces of nature, the unseen author of things, and others. It doesn't help that advances in technology are creating more reasons to treat machines like we would a person. The Aibo, Sony's robot dog, wants you to treat it like a dog, but you don't have to feed it. I do have to feed my car. It needs things. It needs me to take care of it, or it won't survive on its own. I had one of those Tamagotchi things. It required virtual food and care and attention, or it died. I went to bed one night and left it on the dining room table. My roommates disciplined it repetitively. It developed a bad attitude and constantly demanded more of my attention. Then one day, the little guy on the screen was floating, wearing wings and a halo. I think that's where reality set in. I could believe the little egg-shaped toy needed my attention. Its programming cared. But then I realized it was programmed, despite its bad attitude, to go to heaven. I couldn't impart my virtues on it. My Tamagotchi would have simply ceased to be. That was the end of my virtual pet fascination. Now my car, on the other hand, it knows my philosophy. It can even proclaim it on the bumper if I wanted. It does in a small way, in the form of the silver fish symbol proudly affixed to the back end. The fish happens to have teeth and feet. I have stickers that I like to keep for the day I might want to decorate the car a bit more, but mostly, I think my car looks good just the way it is. I like Jetta from the very start. It's not like there are a shortage of black Jettas out there. My car is far from unique, but it's mine, and that makes it different. I guess Jetta is an extension of my personality in a way, so it must be a good thing that I care about it so much. Poor Jetta. It was sick. We'd covered a lot of miles together. There was the cross-country drive from Maine to Washington State, and then a year later from Seattle to Atlanta. Just me and my car. Out in the wilds of America, traversing interstates and detours onto secondary highways, through winding passes, over long bridges, through desert heat and mountain snows, break of day and dark of night, city traffic and prairie sprawl, and occasionally bug, bird, or jackrabbit. There was a time when you were new, when we were going a bit too fast on a morning full of fresh snow and we spun around a couple of times and ended up stuck in a snowbank. Thank goodness that guy came along with his truck a few minutes later on that tiny back road in the middle of Nowheresville with a chain to pull us out. We were much more careful after that. And the time in Kansas, when we ended up in the most amazing summer storm and the road filled up with water, and we just barely made it under the gas station overhang as you threatened to stall. And now, in suburbia afternoon traffic, we were stalled in earnest. So I did what you do when a friend is hurting. I helped. I hopped out and pushed out of traffic, into the safety of a residential street and next to the curb. You looked just like you were parked on the street, but I knew better. It's a car. You can get a new one. A newer one, with less mileage and paint that hasn't seen winter road salt and summer's unrelenting UV rays. There's a tiny hole in the backseat upholstery and a place that's beginning to fade on the roof. But a new car wouldn't know me, wouldn't know the places we've been. It would be starting a whole new relationship. This isn't the way I wanted it to end. It's just a car. It doesn't have a consciousness. It does hum, though, and breathe, sort of. But no, it's not alive. It doesn't eke out that last few miles to the gas station on what appears to be more than an empty tank as a favor to me. In fact, if it really cared, it would have at least gotten me home today before it decided to retire, because it's 90-plus degrees outside, and I'm going to have to walk now, and I'm already sweaty from the pushing. And what was that back there in the road? Kind of like that cold night after a long day of work, when you decided just to not turn over. If it weren't for that nice guy who took me home, what would I have done? How could you? In the end, AAA prevailed. The car was carried off with flashing lights and all, reminiscent of an ambulance in the dark of night. And I tossed and turned a bit, wondering what the diagnosis would be. You really needed an oil change. I shouldn't have neglected you this way. I have guilt over my car, who is across town and lonely in a strange parking lot, sick. This morning the phone rang and an amused mechanic said, "I got a chuckle out of the note you left in the envelope with your keys. Please help my sick Jetta. Is it going to be okay? What's the bad news?" I was reassured. It's the timing belt. It broke. Oh my. You could use an air filter too, and a serpentine belt. Oh no. It's going to be okay though. Nothing seized up. It's all very routine. We'll get her fixed up in no time. Her? A lot of people give their cars a gender. In fact, boats, trains, airplanes, they almost all get names. Most of the time they're girls' names, or the name of someone renowned. The Enterprise was a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier, and also a starship that boldly went, well, you know how that goes. Scotty, we miss you. But part of why we loved you so was your love of the ship. Giving her all she's got and knowing he canna give her no more. She's going to be okay. And so I waited for the call back, telling me I could go rescue her. I'm still not sure Jetta's is she. But then the phone rings again. She's being temperamental, and we want to work on the timing a while. We won't charge you extra, but would tomorrow be okay? Tomorrow? Another night? Alone? But it's what's best for her, so I give in. One of my favorite short-lived television shows was Wonder Falls. The entire basis of the show revolved around the fact that inanimate objects, beginning with a line molded out of wax from one of those cool machines you find at tourist traps, talked to the show's heroine. Next, it was a monkey-shaped bookend, and as more and more things around her began to talk, you wanted the secret to come out, for those around her to be okay that the wax line was talking to her, instead of thinking she was crazy. Most of us feel this way as children. Our stuffed animals, dolls, even our Boba Fett action figures cared about us the way we cared about them. They wanted to be played with. This unspoken truth was validated when Toy Story came out, and we knew that yes, the secret life of toys was as complex as we imagined, and that our playthings were as loyal to us, maybe even more so, as we were to them. I only recently sent the last of my stuffed animals to a shelter for families. I didn't need to keep them. They weren't getting enough of my attention, but I wanted them to be loved still, by someone who would love them. I hope that some little boy or girl found comfort in my Kermit the Frog circa 1978. I know I always did. But I grew up, and my computers and my car got that love instead. Tomorrow, Jetta will come home, and she'll have more get up and go and the perk of a happy, healthy car. I won't have to worry that it's time to let her go yet, and maybe I never will. Hopefully, as long as I keep taking care of her, she'll keep taking care of me. There's only so much love to go around, and I have to save some for the people in my life, and of course, the dog. I can't even start talking about the inappropriate, irrational love I have for him. A healthy amount of anthropomorphism is okay, I think. I don't pray to the car, or the dog for that matter, although I have been caught hoping out loud that there's going to be a gas station at the next exit.
Join our discussion forums at www.skepticality.com. Leave feedback by email at feedback@skepticality.com or by phone at area code 206-888-HOAX. That's 206-888-4629. This has been Skepticality. Thanks for listening.